How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Two fantastic women together. You are my opening Renegade woman, so thank you.
Wow.
I know. So thank you so much for being.
Thank you.
My pleasure. You have inspired me so much over the years that I have known you. And this whole Renegade woman thing wouldn't even have come to mind if it weren't that I crossed paths with women like you who inspired me to do what I needed to do for my path. So some people might think, what do you call me a renegade for, right? I'm not breaking any rules here. Well, a renegade woman, in my view, and the purpose of this podcast, is someone who has broken away from social norms, expectations, maybe rules by others that were placed on them that made them miserable. They didn't necessarily have to be wrong socially, right? They didn't have to break some law. If you're unhappy, do you continue to be unhappy to meet the expectations of others? And of course, our answer is what?
Fuck no. Sorry.
It's okay. This is
Fuck
not.
no.
Fuck no. Why don't you share your journey and where you started and what makes you, in my opinion, a renegade woman?
I am Dr. Yoga Mom. I'm Kimberlyn Cahill. I am a mom of 3, and next month I will be celebrating 20 years of being married to my husband and awesomest life partner. Who am I? I'm a yoga teacher. I create and hold space for others to find their own path of transformation so that they can be, whether it's a renegade or their best selves. That's what I do. That's who I am.
Did you always want to do this?
What I thought I was going to be when I grow up was a university president, because I've always been drawn to the work of transformation, to supporting people in being good contributors to the community, to be active participants in authentic community. Mm-hmm. So yes and no.
How is it different then?
It's less cerebral.
Teacher.
And more compassion.
Mm.
It's more lived experience than strictly an academic perspective. I studied it, but since what was really the impetus or the shift in how I show up was I had a traumatic bicycle accident that nearly took my life. And as a result of that accident, now, some might say that it was the traumatic brain injury that made it possible. I tend to think it was just that it forced me to slow down, gave me some space in my day-to-day activities, which allowed me to contemplate and reflect on who I was in the world and what I really wanted to do. Mm. But it didn't happen in isolation. I actually was broke because I hadn't worked for over a year. My kids were little, and a friend of mine invited me to try yoga. Mm. And in that space, I had my first real experience with being enough, broken as I was, unable to do even the simplest of postures. When I found yoga, that was where I began. And yet I had such a powerful experience. At the time I didn't have the language for it, probably because my brain was still so foggy. But I realized that was the first time I felt like I wasn't a disappointment. That I was okay in my brokenness. In fact, I was still worthy in my brokenness. I didn't know if I was actually going to ever heal, recover, let alone resume what had been a very physically and intellectually rich life.
So it sounds like you had a rich life, you just said yourself. Mm-hmm. Yet you talk about finding an environment that was welcoming and loving and accepting of you where you were. Mm-hmm. Was there a reason why you didn't feel that way elsewhere in your life?
I think the primary difference was that I was very skilled at helping others and defined my value based on what I could contribute. Sure, I'd had struggles and I'd had life. I mean, I was a teenager. For anyone, it's hard. But this was the real crux of a shift where I was completely incapacitated. I couldn't live. So to be in such a place of dependency and recognize that my connection to the community was not based on what I could give. It was based on showing up. And so now some of my favorite hashtags are hashtag just show up or begin again, breathe, move, rest. That these are the mantras, these are the affirmations that come to mind when I hit an obstacle or a roadblock or get a little inspiration to do my day.
Who inspires you?
My children. I find inspiration everywhere. But I gotta say as well that I see inspiration more in people showing up than people performing or people trying to be a leader. So who inspires me? Yes. So what inspires me is not so much the person who is in a position of power, but what inspires me is a person who is in self-empowerment. And that's a very different thing. It's often defined as rallying the troops to follow me versus I'm going to do me and the tribe who shows up. It's not a cause and effect as much as it is an action and a reaction. So what inspires me is people showing up. And I have now practiced the skills, which inherently is paying attention to see it all over the place. Yeah, so I read, I watch and listen to podcasts, I seek dialogue and conversation. And that's where inspiration lives for me. That's where vitality is.
So you can imagine the people that I'm trying to reach, the people who maybe have never even learned how to show up. What is step one to showing up? Because it seems easy to you and I. You just get up and you go, right? There's so much more behind that.
Yeah.
So where is it that someone who's sitting here in tears saying to themselves, my God, I wish I could show up like they're talking about? What would be that one
Well,
thing?
let me say this then, because how I live, how I show up is based on a philosophy that I call transparent alignment. And transparent alignment is really embracing the idea that if I show up in just my body, meaning here, I might check off the to-do list of being present and accounted for. But that's very different than showing up with attention to both give and receive action or contribution. That's what I'm looking for. When I say living in transparent alignment, the alignment means that I'm living according to what I say I'm living. So there's that congruency. The transparency means that you see it, that you know who I am. And this becomes both a way of attracting my tribe, but more importantly, attracting those people who can help me stay in alignment. Because if I start to wander, they're the first ones to say, what does that look like? Transparent alignment is based on 3 practices, and that is cultivating a clear passion and purpose. I call it your intention. And when you get clear, when you get in touch with your intention, that becomes the foundation for which you decide what you say yes to and what you say no to. Because I know a lot of what stifled me was that I was saying yes to things that people wanted me to do, the expectations, and some of them were aligned with my skill set, but not aligned with my passion, not with what made me feel like my contribution was worthy. Hence, I thought it was about what I did, not about who I was.
That's so powerful. Say that one more time.
What I thought was that my value was entirely based on the contribution that I made, and oftentimes a tangible byproduct of my labor. Whereas what I understand now is that the most important gift, the most valuable gift I can give to anyone, Lori, is my attention, which is the second component of transparent alignment in practice. Intention. Then we cultivate our discipline to apply our attention. This is an energy. This is a focus, which, as we know from positive psychology, when we first learn skills, it takes a lot of focus.
Right.
But as we get more comfortable with that skill, it requires less focus, and we can actually experience this euphoria, this flow, this high. So from that intention, we cultivate attention, both of which are skills. Now, it's not linear, okay?
Right.
So in the sense that when I have an intention, then I flush that out to see what's paying attention or what's maybe, here's where I find a lot of success is finding out what's distracting me. Where is my attention leaking? Like if I had a pocket, a hole in my pocket, and I was sticking my paycheck in there, by the time I got to the bank, it had all leaked out.
Absolutely.
I would sew that hole up that minute, right? Even if it was chewing some gum.
And so many of us are oblivious to the holes in which
Yes.
the core of who we are
Yes.
and what we can actually give to ourselves first.
Because attention is
It's
energy.
gone.
And energy, we don't create it. We can't plug in, right? So energy is the universe's. And however you want to frame your understanding of worldview, that's not to say that it doesn't align with what is my cultural, spiritual, religious background. So the universal existence of energy is beyond me. However, I'm a steward of that energy, right? So as that energy comes in, breath, food, interaction, financial paycheck, as that energy comes in, it's my stewardship on how to invest that in step 3, intention, attention, energy, into action. And action includes both the actions of what I do and the non-doing. Or sometimes the undoing.
Yeah, I was actually getting ready to go there. So very well led. I myself, I'm not so far removed from the time of intention and attention being quite foreign and messy for me, you know? I had always thought, I'm just not good enough. I'm not ready. I have nothing people want to hear. What are the number of things that someone can do to start intention, like the whole progression, when they're still sitting in a place where they don't feel they have something?
The best strategy they could do is hire someone to be their coach. You got to find someone who aligns with you, who can speak a language that you understand, right? So yeah, I am a coach, but I didn't set out to be a coach. It was actually almost more of a burden when I woke up to realize I have this is the Ikigai. Okay, so the Ikigai is a Japanese philosophy of how we define our life's work. What creates that? And it's a balance of, or the Venn diagram, of what we love, what we're good at, what the world needs, and what the way I was introduced to it is what the world can afford to pay me. Now, I have converted that into what's the energy exchange? How is it valuable for the energy that I put in and the energy that I get back, right? So it may not always be an economic transaction, but when I find where those 4 lists overlap, so that's a homework assignment that anyone can do before they select a coach, right?
Absolutely.
Is write a list of what do I love? What am I good at? What does the world need? And finally, what can the world afford? Right? So let me give you an example of that. I know a lot of people who adore and love their pets. Right? Yeah, hands go up.
Folks,
hands go
right
up.
here.
It's not me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I love to visit other people's pets, but it's not my love language to connect and interact with pets. Particularly, let's go with the dog, okay? So let's say that you love dogs and that you have a particular skill of connecting and caring for dogs. You know how to watch for their language. You know how to tell the difference between their bark for an alert and their bark for attention, right? So this is a skill that more than likely has been cultivated by being exposed to dogs, okay? Yep. So you can learn that skill, but if you don't have the interest, the love of dogs, you're not going to spend a lot of time learning that. I can't tell the difference, right? But I know that there is a skill there. So those who love dogs have a skill of being in relationship with dogs and enjoy that relationship. What does the world need? Hello.
Dog trainers.
Dog trainers, dog sitters.
I was just going to say dog walkers.
Yes, because our lives are so full. So why would I want to not have a dog just because I work a 15-hour day with a commute that makes it difficult and inconsistent when I get home? I want my dog to have the best care. So I want to hire someone who loves dogs, is good with dogs, and I want to pay them to give my dog the care that I would give them if I could.
Right.
Right? So then, what's the financial exchange? if there is, right? My kid, she does dog sitting for free because I won't let her have a dog. So it's valuable for her to go do dog sitting. She gets to be with a dog, gets to care for a dog, gets to cultivate her dog whispering skills, and yet I don't have to deal with the dog hair and my allergies at home. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean, right? When we get clear on these 4 lists, we might need someone to help us identify what is a skill versus oh, but everyone can do that. Bullshit, right? That's the biggest hurdle we have is that, but we don't see our strengths because they come easy to us, in which case we dilute their power. And so having an outside person, someone who is whether paid or you've got a really good connection that someone can give you feedback authentically, right? Compassionately, but yet still directly. These are skills that I'm finding aren't being taught in our day-to-day living. They're really not. And so unless you have someone who is trained to do that, you could actually end up hurting your relationship as opposed to enhancing your relationship or discovering your life's work. Yes. So there's a time and a place to hire someone to do this work. Just like when it's time and a place to hire a dog sitter, there's a time and a place to hire a coach. And that person, in my opinion, in my life's work coaching, is about holding the position of witness until you're able to cultivate your own witness so that you can see your alignment, know your life's work. That doesn't mean you ever, quote, outgrow feedback or ever finish the journey.
God, I hope not, right?
It's a continual evolution. I hope. I mean, otherwise, I'm going to get bored. Right. I'm going to get bored. Because that's the bottom line for me, is that I am not a maintenance person. I am a transformation facilitator.
Yeah. If someone was not yet ready for a coach, is there a book you absolutely love to help people break through themselves and their own limitations so that they can step out and begin to be present?
Anything by Brené Brown. She speaks in a way that although she is a well-educated professional woman, she speaks in a way that is so real, authentic, and she speaks about this vulnerability and the authenticity, and that's how we're going to change the world. It's important.
She makes it possible for us to rumble and be able to be productive.
Yes, that's a great word. Rumble and Renegade, they're friends, right? Because you really are. You can't be a renegade unless you're willing to rumble.
Amen.
But even more important than that is that to be a renegade is not to spit in the face of community. It's to say that I want authenticity. And the way that we reach authenticity is about rumbling through where my expectations, my thoughts, my questions, my vernacular may differ from yours. So stop trying to be someone else and be you. You are already fully equipped to become and to embody the beautiful being that you are. And if I could have learned that 25 years ago,
I could have cut 10 years off my own journey.
Not to mention 25 pounds of stress. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I am not interested in being in relationship with perfect people. I'm interested in being in relationship with authentic people. People who are fallible. Because that's where that rumble happens. Mm-hmm. But if we already are in alignment, this is where we get the yes culture of, oh yes, you're this. No, I'm interested in the conversation. I'm not interested in having us agree all the time.
Thank you. I love you. I know everyone else is going to love you. And take a chance. Tell everybody where they can find you if they find themselves ready.
Yeah. Lifesworkyoga.com. That's all one word. Life's with an apostrophe, but of course, websites don't have an apostrophe. But Lifesworkyoga, all one word, .com.
Thank you so much.
What an honor. What a privilege to be able to share. Lori, you inspire me. And thank you for your welcome.